Ian Murray, early in the campaign you were talking a little bit about how the boat was being sailed. I wonder whether you can give us a few pointers on what in particular you're learning about a different way of sailing it, especially in light airs.
Yeah, look, I think I sort of highlighted the areas I thought we could make some improvements to Comanche, and from my time sailing on Wild Oats against her, clearly the Oats had an advantage in the lighter breezes, and you could categorise that into a number of different lightnesses of breezes. And I think where we are today is that, we've sort of got a reasonable idea of how we're performing against those boats. And from 12 knots, I think we can sail faster than Wild Oats Blackjack, and between 8 and 12 knots we can hang in there with them, and below 8 knots we suffer. And so, so the work is in front of us to minimise the damage and then maximise the damage. And we had a really good run up the coast and through Hamilton Island, and that to really get a good handle on a lot of different conditions and work on those sort of principles and framework around sailing the boat in the lighter breezes. And it's all dinghy sailing really, because the boat is essentially a big dinghy. And so it's the fundamentals of heel and balance and sail trim and weight forward and minimising wetted surface area, and just being very cognizant of all of those inputs and making sure that you have the discipline to maximise everything you can to achieve those goals.
So marginal gains really. I noticed on the Bird Island race you had half the crew right up near the bowsprit there in that very light air getting out of the harbour.
Yeah, so that's all part of it, getting the boat bow down. It's no different, to having your crew on the foredeck of your Cherub when you're, 15 years old. It's all the same discipline, and so we just have to do it, and we have to be aggressive doing it. And I think from what we've seen is that, making sure the boat's suitably attired in terms of the equipment on board. We race the race and we prepare for the race on the forecast, and we crew it accordingly, and then we race it with all of those things like you said, bow down, heel, make sure we're sailing the boat as fast as we can. The boat has a threshold where it breaks its stern wave at about 9 knots, and we have to really strive to do that.
And having a sort of different mindset perhaps with a core of 18-foot skiff sailors, as well as some of the more experienced guys like Pablo and others who've been on the boat for a long time, must be pretty important, yeah?
Yeah, there's a marriage there of sort of skiff and long ocean miles, and fantastic having that blend and come together. And obviously, sort of there's always, this is the way we do it, whether it's on a skiff or on a Volvo Ocean Race or a thing, and sort of luckily we have a very cohesive sort of, I think, nature of the cruise, and having that sort of month away on Hamilton Island, all living in one house, was really good foundation for what we're going to go through in December.
I got the privilege to come on board on Thursday, a pretty blowy day at Hamilton Island, and apart from just seeing the extraordinary coordination, the thing that really struck me was how far ahead you had to be thinking, not just the next mark but the next bear away after that, and that being passed through the crew. That's presumably in short stuff. Are you still needing to do the same kind of approach offshore?
Oh, I think that starts, you're basically racing the race before you leave the dock, and you have to be prepared for that with the sails and equipment. You have to prepare your sort of run sheet for what the race is going to look like. And ideally you've run through all that in the morning with the crew in terms of this is where we're going to go, this is the likelihood of the sails, we need to have this one ready, this one stacked there, sheets prepared for this, sheets prepared for that. As you say, everything's big, it's heavy, every sail weighs in excess of 200 kilos. It doesn't happen quickly, so the more you can be prepared to roll it out, the execution of the race and the manoeuvre is more likely to, happen in an efficient way.
Always the tricky bit in Hobart is those light transitions, especially for Comanche, presumably kind of really trying to get early speed when it's getting up above 8 or 9 knots is really key, because obviously when you're really stuck, you're stuck, but it's getting those early miles, shortening them up a bit, I guess, yeah?
Yeah, it's trying to avoid, the potholes, and, even if we have to sail a little bit longer, just stay out of those no wind areas, and the forecasting is so good, and we've placed an emphasis on it by having 2 specialised navigators on board, because it can creep up on you quickly, and sometimes you're blind to it. So really, any sort of concentration and studying and watching the information as it's happening in real time is critical to us, and particularly at night. So that's our game plan. We're just on it.